Hello, everybody. How are you doing? Thanks for joining us on this live stream. The first order of business, of course, I ask you to please hit the like button, comment, interact with the video because of the YouTube algorithm. Again, I hate doing this whole routine, but it's necessary. I see right now we have almost 150 people watching, but only 84 likes. Come on. Pump these numbers up. This is embarrassing. Let's go. Okay? I won't forgive you. I'm just playing. There we go. There we go. I see it rising. China rising. We'll get to China in a second. So first topic that I want to talk about, okay? And we're going to have a special guest come in as well and break it down. There we go. We got more likes than people watching. It's amazing. We have ghosts watching as well. Shout out to those of you who joined in. So let's go through the first topic, okay? Because this is very important. This is very, very, very important. This is groundbreaking, okay? So Hezbollah has broken the de facto American siege on Lebanon, okay? So the first shipment of Iranian oil has arrived. Because of sanctions, they couldn't send it directly. So what they did is they sent 4 Iranian ships to Banyas, to the port in Syria. And then from Syria with trucks, they've driven them down to Lebanon. And the first shipment has arrived. Okay, so as you can see, I'm just going to show you this on the screen. Hezbollah brings Iran fuel to Lebanon despite U.S. sanctions. And I really love this title, despite U.S. sanctions, as if, like everyone has to adhere to U.S. sanctions, right? It's universal law. How dare they defy the sanctions? So this is important, of course, that the sanctions play a huge role in this. But you should pay attention to the language. Now, with Sayyid Nasrallah, what he said earlier on Monday, he gave a speech, okay, and I just want to play this very briefly for you.
نحن اعتمدنا التقسيم التالي. القسم الأول اللي هو بالحقيقة قسم نحن نرغب أنه ما يحتاجه لمدة شهر. يعني عم نحكي هلا عمليا إذا فاتوا الصهاريج بلشت المازوت يفوت على البلد. فعم نحكي من 16 17 أيلول.
Right, so just to translate for you, he's saying when it's going to come, and it's going to be over a month. So to get all this fuel in, it's going to take over a month. And if you look here at this article from Al Jazeera, right, what did they say down here? They say that Oil Export Monitor Tanker Tracker says the 4-tanker shipment contains a total of 33,000 metric tons of gas oil and would need 792 trucks to deliver the entire shipment to Lebanon, which is in desperate need of fuel. Okay, and these trucks have been coming in carrying each 50,000 liters of diesel. So the thing is that Iran is in, it has a huge, Lebanon, has been bringing this stuff in from Iran because it has a huge shortage, okay? So Sayyid Nasrallah, in his speech, he goes on to explain that shipment number 1, 2, and 4 are going to be mazot, which is diesel, and number 3 will be benzene. So benzene will be for cars, but what is the diesel for? Well, lots of things. You need, diesel generators to power up shops, hospitals, you name it, right? Everything, ovens for bakeries. So many things are running on diesel, right? And the other thing, of course, is that who is going to receive this, right? So Lebanon is in a huge crisis. So who is going to benefit from this? Well, everyone, especially orphanages. So he lists them off. Nasrallah, he goes through the list of who will receive this for free, right? So public hospitals, orphanages, nursing homes, or residentials, and the fire department, the Red Cross, so this is going to all the essential services for free. And civilians, the rest of the people who want to buy this stuff, there's no profit there's no markup in the price. Okay, so they're going to get it cheaper than they would anywhere else. Okay, Hezbollah is not trying to make any profit from the diesel. They're selling it cheaper than anyone because there's no markup, there's no profit. They're just trying to help the situation. So to break this down even more, I'm going to bring in Hadi Nasrallah. Okay, so he's a good friend of the show. He's a brilliant political analyst and commentator from Lebanon, and he joins me now. Just let me bring him in over here. Wonderful. There we go. Hi, Hadi. Kifak, how are you doing?
Hi, how are you, Richard?
I'm great. I'm great. It's great to see you, Habibi. So, I was just trying to explain that who is going to benefit from these shipments of diesel and benzene. So, do we know anything about the prices yet? Because, Sayyid Nasrallah, he said there's no kind of markup, there's no profit in, for example, civilians trying to buy it. Do we know what the price is yet? Have they begun selling it already? Because today is the first day that this has come in, right?
So far, we do not know the exact prices they're going to be sold in, because we still didn't get the actual gas for the cars and for domestic use. Basically, what we got right now is the fuel used for hospitals and generators and other facilities. And Hezbollah announced that for the first month, it's going to be for free for all the basically institutions that are most in need. For example, the Lebanese Red Cross, the orphanage buildings, the generators, hospitals, public hospitals, of course, and basically special needs institutions. So those places are going to take for the first month for free. And now the second Iranian tanker on its way to Lebanon is going to have the actual gas for people to use, and it's going to be basically deployed in Al Amana stations, which is a Hezbollah gas station. And then we're going to find out about the prices. But so far, what we know is going to be much cheaper than what we used to buy from all the people who monopolized our gas for decades, basically, in the country.
So could you maybe break down for people how bad the situation is? I mean, I've tried to do this as detailed as I can, but, please just tell people how bad it is. Like, this is not just something about, there's not enough fuel in the country. It's much more than that, the economic situation.
So basically, since 2019, before that, we've been struggling a bit with the economy, but it wasn't that serious until 2019, after the white protests happened in the country, and then the Beirut explosion, and then the pandemic. You have the pandemic before that. It was pretty intense. I mean, the serious part is, it's not that what is happening, it's how fast it happened. Suddenly, out of nowhere, our currency just dropped. No more dollar in the country, because we're dependent on US dollar in Lebanon, and suddenly it's out of market. It's all in the black market, people exchanging, taking it outside the country, smuggling it somewhere else. And then now we have the crisis of the gas and fuel, which is not only a crisis for cars and people to use to go around, it's also a crisis for our institutions. We were almost out of bread in some areas because the factories can't work anymore. We're almost out of bottled water because the factories also can't produce them anymore. There's no more fuel. And we used to have, I think, around 7 hours a day government electricity, but the other hours we have generators for that. Now, both generators and the government electricity, we can get, if we're lucky, 3 hours a day in a lot of areas, which is very serious. And we're still struggling until today, which is why this Hezbollah move is seen as, some people are regarding it, they're saving the country because we cannot handle this anymore. And the US is not doing anything about it. Their allies are not doing anything about it. Only Iran offered, and they've been offering for years now. And we've been refusing because we want to abide by US sanctions against Iran. But now we said, okay, we've had enough. You're not helping, so we have to ask help from someone else.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, why is this such a victory for the resistance? When people say that this is breaking the American siege or blockade, what do they mean exactly? How, what is the mechanism here that's creating this economic crisis?
Yeah, and there's a lot of people actually who do not know how serious this is, especially to a country like Lebanon. Since our establishment as a country decades ago, never did we get anything against any US wishes from any countries that's sanctioned by the US. We always abide by US sanctions. This is the first time in history that Lebanon actually got something from Iran and throughout Syria. So you have Iran heavily sanctioned. Syria is under brutal sanctions with the Caesar sanctions, and Lebanon is under de facto siege because of the resistance, and we're basically annoying the US with some military stuff going on around the country. So Hezbollah before used to embarrass the US military-wise when they, for example, kicked the Israelis out in 2000, when they kicked ISIS and al-Nusra out in 2017. But this is a major economic victory. That's the first time that ever happened in Lebanon. Usually we have military victories, but this is economic and history in the making. So that's why it's very serious.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's been no response so far from the Americans and, people who are against Hezbollah, against the resistance. What's the reaction been like, on the street from the people, because I saw, for example, someone fired an RPG in celebration, which is, it's so Lebanese. I love it. But, how are people generally receiving this news and, the shipment of oil?
It's Lebanon, so of course the people are divided when it comes to any situation. So for something as serious as that, of course, we're divided. I can assure you that the majority of people actually are okay with this Hezbollah move, because the other side that's trying to attack Hezbollah and claiming that Hezbollah is now a state within a state and they're trying to undermine the government role, this is actually very false, because before that, Hezbollah didn't just suddenly announce that they're bringing oil from Iran. They did warn the government that if they fail to give out the needs of the people, they're gonna actually go on with this move, and they warned them on multiple occasions in Nasrallah speeches. So he didn't just suddenly announce it. When he actually wanted both his allies and his opponents, so the entire government. And then when the government failed to actually help the people that are suffering, there have been a few months, especially after the Beirut port explosion, then Hezbollah had no choice but to bring the fuel from Iran. And now when they arrived, and thanks to Syria, of course, Syria actually made us borrow all these tankers that are being used now to get the oil, and the ship actually sailed to Syria, not Lebanon. And that was under Hezbollah demand, because they didn't want to embarrass the government in front of the Americans. So there was, although Hezbollah asked the people not to celebrate and not to shoot guns and stuff, but the people, they were too excited and they were too happy that they couldn't stop themselves.
Yeah, I just want to show some images over here. For example, I've seen people all over Twitter posting, pictures of people saying, so here's Shukran Iran, Shukran Syria, thank you Iran, thank you Syria. And so, over here, people have flags out as well. When we listen to the U.S. ambassador who is talking about the situation, they scrambled to go and get fuel from Egypt, right? Or rather gas converted. It's so complicated, right? So they want to bring gas from Egypt to Jordan, convert it to energy, and then send it through Syria to Lebanon. And Syria, however, agreed to this, right? And I wanted to ask you something, because these two events coincided with what happened in Dore. In Dore, in south of Syria, there was a very volatile situation, and then suddenly there's a truce. There's a Russian brokered ceasefire between the militants and the Syrian government. And this just so happens to be where, the pipeline passes, right? So it goes from it goes from Egypt to Jordan, right? And it passes down here through Dore and then goes to Lebanon. Do you think that this coincided? Do you think that this ceasefire coincided with the fact that, Syria agreed to, not just Syria, but even Jordan, Egypt, and, of course, with Israel's consent, agreed to bring, energy to Lebanon? Because they really didn't want to help at all for the last couple of years, right, as you said?
It's quite possible, because if you watch the U.S., how they reacted literally a day after Nasrallah announced that he's bringing oil from Iran, then suddenly they came out with this plan that they have been preparing for years, and we had no idea. We had nothing to do with it. They never even asked the government. They were just talking to their allies about it, and they kept it in their pockets until Nasrallah announced that. So I would presume that, maybe the U.S. had a role in calming the situation in Dore, because they will actually prefer to lose Dore but not Lebanon, because it's basically very intense for them. What's happening right now in Lebanon is very intense. The US is losing grounds in Lebanon politically and diplomatically and even economically, and that's their fault. They pushed Lebanon to go to the axis of Iran and Syria. Even their allies are disappointed from them. If you see the comments of Lebanese people who are in the anti-Syrian, anti-Iran camp, they're always like, under the comments under the US officials, they're like, this is your fault. We trusted you. We wanted you to act, but you didn't. You pushed Lebanon towards the other axis. So it backfired.
Right, but isn't it a bit silly to kind of hyper politicize this, because the people are starving. People, they're they're really not doing well. So they are people refusing to get heating oil and fuel just because it came from Hezbollah?
You'd be surprised. Some people actually would rather die out of cold but not take anything from Hezbollah in Lebanon, unfortunately, which is something sad. And even though Hezbollah, I want to tell a story right now that some people are saying that Hezbollah is bringing this fuel and oil only to their supporters and only to their community, which is actually false. They're bringing it to all the Lebanese people. And the biggest proof is, a few months ago, we had a horrific explosion in Akkar, North Lebanon, when an oil tanker exploded and dozens of people were killed and a lot of people were injured and some are still suffering from severe burns. The government, our media only spoke about it one day and then everyone forgot about it. The government didn't react. And this area is actually very, very anti-Hezbollah. They're not aligned with Hezbollah in any way. Even though last week Hezbollah announced that they're actually sending financial aid to all the families of the victims and the people injured. They're the only party in Lebanon, the only group that actually helped those people. And those people are against Hezbollah, which is, so people should now think about their country first and keep their politics aside. We need this. We need to work with Iran. We need to work with Syria. Even the US is working with Syria right now for the sake of Lebanon. I don't know why we're stopping that.
This is incredible, right? So they have Syria under sanctions, and Lebanon under de facto siege, and so just to prevent Hezbollah and Iran from gaining any ground politically or with the people, they are working with Syria. It's astonishing to me, really. Yeah. And
the US just broke its most sacred sanction on Syria, that they're trying to isolate Syria from its region. Now they're making Syria work with Lebanon, Egypt, and Jordan.
Yeah, it's really incredible. And I wanted to ask you, when Nasrallah gave the speech, he said this is going to take a while, right? So this, just so people understand, this is only the first shipment, right? There's more to come. There are 4 shipments.
There's basically, right now, there are 4 shipments announced. So there are going to be more where they're going to announce in the future. So the first shipments are going to be basically fuel, like I said, for the institutions, for the hospitals, etc., etc. And then the second shipment is going to be for the gas, which is going to be basically put in like Amana stations, which is a Hezbollah gas stations company, which is under sanctions as well by the US. So they're going to deploy it there. And there's something even more interesting than Nasrallah. I think 2 speeches ago, he said that if the government also fails to find companies to extract our oil and gas from the disputed areas in the sea between us and the Israeli occupation, they're going to bring companies from Iran and from China, and our basically countries are allied with the resistance, to come and basically extract this oil and gas. So I believe that if the government fails, they're going to do it. They're going to go ahead and we're going to bring companies. This is going to be, dangerous a bit, but still, we trust in the resistance.
Yeah, but it's incredible because if you look at the videos, you look at the pictures, the trucks are driving. I think, first of all, they were protected by the Syrian army up until the border with Lebanon. And then when they're in Lebanon, they're driving unimpeded through the streets. No one is daring to stop them, right? Not even the Lebanese government.
No, they can't. Nasrallah warned them. He said before he even announced the oil, he said, if you fail to fulfill the demands of the civilians, of the Lebanese civilians, we're gonna bring oil from Iran, and I dare anyone, he said that, I dare anyone to try. So
sorry about that. I was trying to play video. Here's sorry, just go, continue. I just wanted to play this video of the trucks going in.
Oh yeah, that was interesting how people just gathered and celebrate. The fact that people are celebrating oil coming into the country can show you how severe the situation is.
Yeah, absolutely. And what do you think this means for the resistance going forward? I know that Iran is also under sanctions, of course, but Iran is sending fuel to Venezuela. They're sending fuel to Syria. They're sending now to Lebanon. I think it's interesting, though, that Israel didn't dare do anything to this tanker. They're always blowing up Iranian tankers. When Nasrallah said this is Lebanese soil, the moment it leaves, the ship is Lebanese soil. I really think, I was like, would they dare? Would they actually dare do it? Apparently not.
Yeah, they can't. Hezbollah is always serious about their threats and their warnings especially when it comes to Israel. Even if they have to wait 5 years, they're going to retaliate eventually. And Israel is not ready for any retaliation or escalations on its border, especially after what happened in Gaza a few months ago. I don't think they're ready for any escalations with Hezbollah on their northern borders. So like, okay, let's just let the oil come and we're going to do something about it, but in another way. So of course there's a plot right now. They're planning something against Lebanon. And hopefully the resistance will be prepared.
And so you mentioned that they might start, extracting the oil or the gas, rather, excuse me, that is on the seaboard. What else do you think might happen if, the government, the politicians, the elites don't clean up their act?
So basically right now, after like more than a year, I think, we have a government now. So hopefully this government's going to do some action. I mean, they're not going to fix anything. We all know that. But at least they're going to do some action which going to lead Hezbollah to settle down with their decisions and everything they're making. We don't want them to stop. I mean, we're good with what's happening. But I think they're going to reach some sort of meditation between all sides, between the Lebanese government and Hezbollah and their allies and their opponents, to actually, okay, let the government now take over. But Hezbollah is going to keep watching, of course, and they're going to see if they're actually going to be able to do that or not. If they're not going to be able to extract our gas, Hezbollah will do it. I mean, I trust they're going to do it after what they did now with the Iranian oil.
Yeah, it's quite a remarkable feat. So, Hadi, where can people find you on social media? Where can they follow your work and what you're doing?
So basically, I'm an activist and researcher. They can find me on Twitter, Hadi Nasrallah, and basically the other social media is just personal. I don't post politics that much.
Okay, I'm just gonna put your Twitter up on the screen briefly so people can see it and go follow you there. And really, I mean, great stuff and great talking with you. And thanks so much for your time. I know it's late, but this is really such an important story. I know they're barely covering it, so I really wanted to go through it with you. Shukran, habibi. Allah ya'tikum afiyah. Thanks so much.
Yalla, bye.
Yalla, bye-bye. Take care. Okay. That was wonderful. That was great having Hadi with us. And, you know, this is, like I said, this is a very important
Recording stopped.
Oh, you heard the lady. Recording stopped. No, this is a very important topic because, you know, there's only one way to cover anything in the Middle East in the mainstream media, right? There's only one way to cover it. And the only way that they cover it is anti-resistance, pro-colonialism, pro-imperialism. So anything that is, you know, even if it's good for the people, if Iran is behind it, no, it's bad. You know, if Hezbollah, Syria behind it, oh, extra bad. You know, you can't have nice things. Even though people are starving, there's no fuel. They're going through very difficult times. Syria too, by the way, right? The economies are interlinked, but of course Syria, the situation is also much heavier. But you know, even though they're going through tough times, no relief allowed. But again, it says a lot, right? Like we were just discussing, it says a lot that the U.S. is willing to work with Syria, which it's at war with, and it has sanctions on, in order to make sure Lebanon can get this gas from Egypt, just for the sake of preventing Iran from gaining a foothold or just, you know, looking good with the people. It really says a lot. Like, that's how desperate they are. And immediately, one day after, they're scrambling. So you look at the timing. It's incredible. When Nasrallah suggested this idea before it came to fruition. He suggested Iran might send fuel. The next day, Iraq doubled its supply of crude oil to Lebanon from 500,000 tons to 1 million. Again, it's crude. I mean, it's kind of useless. You know, Lebanese, they need diesel, they need benzene. What are they going to do with crude? You need to refine it, right? So that happened. And then when Nasrallah said the ships are coming, then all of a sudden, the U.S. ambassador is calling up Jordan and Egypt and saying, quick, let's get some Egyptian gas to Jordan and we'll convert it to power and get it through Syria to Lebanon. It's incredible, really. Like, you know, they want to reinvent physics and go through all these hoops just to block Iran, block Hezbollah, block their resistance. It's really fascinating, right? It's really fascinating. So that was great talking to Hadi, and this is, of course, some great news. You know, I hope people actually find some relief. Although, again, it's not a long-term solution, right? You know, everyone knows this. I've spoken about this with Rania on the channel. Like, you had a whole Ponzi scheme going, and the politicians. I mean, every country has corrupt politicians. Yeah, every single one. But in Lebanon, this is, you know, it's something that's been going on very acutely, and with the IMF. refusing. Well, the IMF is a colonial institution, right? So they want to control your politics through loans, right? So they say, well, we'll give you money if you do such and such, and of course, such and such, what does that mean? It means pleasing the West, right? So they won't give Lebanon any more money. All the money has been stolen. The previous money that was given to them, it's so screwed up, right? So that's what we mean when we talk about a de facto siege. There's many issues. It's really complicated. The situation in Syria, of course, impacts Lebanon and so forth. But at least some relief for now. So we have 250 people watching. It's very good. Let's make sure we have 250 likes. And thank you so much for supporting independent media. And of course, go and follow Hadi. He's really great. So let me just read some of your comments over here. I think, give me a second. This is great. This is great. Thank you so much for your nice comments. We got one over here on Rockford from James. James has sent a tip, and I'm very grateful for that. And we also have some on PayPal. This one is from Marie. She says, "Great work. Thank you, Marie. I appreciate your support. You're very kind." So let's move on to the next. Let's move on to the next topic, shall we? I really don't want to cover this. I really, it's so exhausting, but we don't have to, but we'll go through it briefly. We'll go through it very briefly, Are you ready? Are you ready? So, the other day, our beloved Congresswoman, AOC, she went to the Met Gala, which is a gathering of rich people, right? And she took this dress with her, right? This dress that says "Tax the Rich." And I mean, this is a very interesting dress to wear to such an event because it's only an event for the rich, right? So a ticket to this event is, $30,000, $35,000. I mean, if you have $30,000 to spend on a ticket to an event, I mean, you're stinking rich, by definition, stinking rich. And so she thought that, if I'm going to be ballsy and I'm going to go wear this dress to this event, which is a cheap stunt. I mean, I'm just going to spell this out very simply. This American politician, a Democrat. Democrats are right wing, and it's all a charade. She pretends to be a socialist. There are no socialists in the Democratic Party. You cannot be a socialist in American establishment politics. This is a joke. And so she's trying to keep her socialist street cred, her socialist reputation, right? While also going to a party full of rich people, right? And trying to play both sides. So she wants to hang out with her rich friends, which is what happens. You're a politician in the United States. All of your friends are rich. You have, everyone who works there. You have multimillionaires. People went to Ivy League schools. These are the people who work in DC, right? These are the people who attend these parties. They are stinking rich. So she wanted to hang out with her stinking rich friends while also keeping up her scam, right? Because you have an entire scam, a culture of people who run as socialists in the Democratic Party pretending to be, we're all for these good things. We want to give you higher wages and we're going to give you health care and all these nice things. And I'm so socialist, And then it's just talk. It's just talk. Now, granted, at the beginning, it wasn't talk. She was quite good, right, at the beginning. Doing all these protests, direct action, very nice. And so, just to remind you, I mean, someone put this very succinct comparison up over here. So how it started versus how it's going, right? So here she is on the left. I believe this is in front of Pelosi's office. She's making a whole ruckus. She's telling activists to come there. She's protesting in front of the office. This is how you do it. This is how you do it. On the left. And now, let's go to the rich people party. Who falls for this? When are people going to wake up? For the love of God, when are you going to wake up? I really don't know why people are so hell-bent on defending politicians. They're just politicians, man. They're making a mockery out of everything that they ran on. And they're mocking you. They're making fun of you to your face. What is this? Oh, my God. And so it doesn't stop there. It doesn't stop there. I want to show you a video now. And this next one, this video is really going to say everything. Are you ready for the video? Let's take a look. I don't know who posted this, but it's from the event. So one of the most disgusting things I've seen. Okay? Take a look at the video. Just watch it.
Yes,
you can literally hear the "Yes, Queen" in the background, you know? I mean, this is so emblematic. I love this video. You know why? Because it's so emblematic of American politics. They idolize these people who are public servants. At the end of the day, these people are public servants. They work for you, the citizenry. They idolize them like they're pop stars. I mean, please do this experiment, okay? Please, I beg you, do this experiment. If you have a friend or a family member who doesn't know who AOC is, and I'm very jealous of them, please show them this video and ask them if they know this person or what this person does for a living. And I'm pretty sure most of them are going to think this is a Hollywood actress, which is normal because that's what it looks like. She looks like a Hollywood actress, you know? Yes, it looks like a red carpet event. Oh, it's so cringy. Oh my God. Look, man, by all means, if you want to celebrate a leader who gave, you know, your country something enormous, fine. But the squad have done nothing. I mean, literally nothing. This is the pinnacle, the apogee of their fight, right? And I want to note something else. Do you see how in this shot the people carrying her dress are wearing masks, but she is not? I don't understand this. I really don't understand this. And all the people at this event, the rich ones, you know, who are having their photos taken, they're not wearing any masks. Why is that? And when Obama had his birthday party, no one is wearing a mask either. Look, man, I thought we're on the same page. This isn't just a pandemic, it's a global pandemic, right? So we have to fight it together. So if we're going to fight it together, we have to be on the same page. So if some people are wearing masks, shouldn't everyone be wearing masks at this event? You know, for the science, for safety? No? I'm trying to understand what the rationale is here. What's the point of this? Please explain it to me. Please explain why Obama and his friends at his private get-together are not wearing masks, and here AOC is not wearing a mask. What's going on? What are the rules here? Why is one group exempt? What's the criteria for being exempt? Being a rich politician? Explain it to me. I'm trying to understand. So, this is so cringy, man. I swear. And meanwhile, do you know what was happening outside the Met Gala? So again, this very useless gathering of rich people who buy $30,000 tickets to just celebrate how rich they are. This is what was happening outside, okay? You had a Black Lives Matter protest. So while people were getting beat up by the police and arrested, who, you know, engaging in direct action to try and pursue their agenda of social and racial justice, you know, AOC is on her let them eat cake mode. And it's disappointing because as we pointed out, you know, a few years ago, she might have been there with them, as we see on the left, right? So there is a change going on here. And I wanted to show you a video, right? There's some videos of this outside. Take a look. This is outside the Met Gala. Look what's happening.
We dying. We dying. And nobody cares. Nobody cares. Celebrities don't care. Police don't care. The president don't care. We dying. We dying.
I don't know, man. I don't know if, I mean, you know, she talks the talk. She doesn't walk the walk. The AOC that ran for Congress would be out there with them. That's what I know. That's what she said. And I really like this whole trend right now. So you have a tax the rich dress. Let me remind you of something. There was also a Medicare for all mask, right? So just slap the policies on a piece of clothing and that's it. And you can go on Twitter and you can tweet the policies and that's it. You don't actually have to do anything as a congresswoman who yields enormous power with her enormous platform. No, just slap it on a piece of clothing. That's it, right? This is how you write legislation. You don't write it on, you know, on a legal a letter and try to get it passed and have it go through the committees. No, just put it on a mask, put it on a dress, and that's it. It magically turns into reality. Well done. So we have a Medicare for all mask. We have a tax the rich dress. Is AOC going to ride in on an Israeli tank that says Free Palestine next? Is that what he's going to do? This is so fucking performative. And you really need to understand something. This is not just about her. This is about the whole trend of politics in general, but specifically American politics. Because, all politics is performative, without a doubt. But in America, they idolize them. They turn them into these pop stars. I mean, she's on Rolling Stone magazine, right? You remember with Pelosi? And so this is troublesome. This is troubling because you have people who are brainwashed, who think that, you must worship these public servants. You must defend them ruthlessly. For what? For what? What have they done? Point to one thing that they ran on that they have passed. Just one. You cannot do it. Earlier this year, they had a chance to block the omnibus that did not contain the $15 minimum wage. They didn't. Right? It goes to the Senate. The Senate's like, no, we're going to remove the $15 minimum wage. They send it back to Congress, right? And the squad is like, we didn't see nothing, pass it. What? You could have blocked it by 7 votes. I thought the whole strategy is to get these people elected so they can vote as a block and stop bills or help pass bills that are advantageous to, $15 minimum wage, Medicare for all, et cetera, et cetera. They're frauds. And just a few weeks ago, they helped Israel get a boatload of money as well. They could have stopped that too. They didn't. They voted for it. You remember? Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think AOC did that. Ilhan Omar did, surprisingly, right? You would think it's the other way around. No. I mean, it's just... And then Nancy Pelosi at the beginning of the year, you remember how they weren't there during the first roll call, so everyone thought that they didn't vote for her, and then they snuck in through the back, and they're like, yes, vote for Pelosi, and then they rushed away. You had so much confusion on Twitter. You had people saying, she didn't vote for Pelosi. No, she did. You just didn't watch till the end. You're an idiot. So these people are scandalous. They're frauds. They're politicians, man. Like, why does the whole planet understand what's going on with American politicians except Americans? Why are they so fucking adamant on worshiping these people? It's really extraordinary. Like, everyone with half a fucking brain knows that Democrats and Republicans are playing on the same team. They're frauds. You cannot enter DC establishment politics without being a fucking fraud. You can't do that anywhere, actually. Never mind in DC. So why are people so adamant? I don't get this, right? And of course, she goes on, she starts doing this crap, right? Let me show you. So according to her, the medium is the message. The medium is the message, right? And she knows that she's getting a backlash. Just before anybody starts wilding out, New York City elected officials are regularly invited. Okay, listen, man, this is not about the invitation. If she was passing legislation, she was voting properly, you think anyone would give a shit? No, be fine. The problem here is that there's no basis. All the things that you should have done, I told you, Israel, $15 minimum wage, all this stuff. Where is it? They take turns. This is a game, if you haven't realized by now. They take turns in the squad. When there's a shitty bill, there's a really crappy bill that it goes against the values that they ran on. Some of them will vote for it just enough so it passes. Just enough so it passes, often by one fucking person, right? And they take turns doing this. So it's not just one of them catching flack. I mean, I cannot believe why people haven't woken up to this. It's really sad. It's really sad. And the dress is the least of the problems, but it really is comical. It really highlights this performative bullshit so well. I love it. It really, I can't wait for the Israeli tank that says Free Palestine. Coming soon from AOC. You'll find it on her website, maybe. So, what a fucking joke. This is so pathetic. This is so pathetic, really. And this thing where she's looking like a queen and the people with the masks are dragging her dress like peasants. Just look at it.
Yes, AOC!
Oh my god. Bah, bah, the sheep are in session. Bah, meh, meh, AOC. Oh, that shit is hilarious. Really, this is really pathetic. Anyway, I just wanted a good laugh. You know, we're here to cover real news, not some gossip bullshit. But again, the real news is that American politics is performative. All politics is performative, but especially American. It's all bullshit. There's no difference, Republicans, Democrats. It's all horseshit. Really get this through your head. The better you understand this, the better off you'll stop being a fucking sheep. All right, so We have a nice little tip over here from Gordon. Thank you very much, Gordon, for your lovely donation. Thank you for supporting the show. I'm very grateful. I'm just checking if we have any others so I can shout them out and read your things. We have a very important topic to get to, the one in the title, which is, I mean, World War III. You know, I don't know if we're going to see it or not. It sounds like it, though. But if you want to support the show, if you want to support independent media, the no sheep media, this is where to go. You can. For some reason, I just got muted. But my point, I was just saying, if you want to support independent anti-imperialist media, that is the spot. Just scan the QR code. Thank you very much. All the links are below. I don't want to spend time plugging the show. I want to talk about the politics, the meat. Get to the meat. That's what we're here for, right? The crux of the issue. So, really, that sheep shit is just incredible. Yes, AOC, man. Oh my god, and it really, I just want to say one more thing. It's so hilarious. It's so typical then how they try to spin it as a positive, like, oh my god, look how brave she is, right? Look how brave she is. She went to a gathering of stinking rich oligarchs and corrupt politicians and wrote on her dress, tax the rich. Ooh, how threatening. Oh, how threatening. I bet they were shaking with their checkbooks, right? As AOC rolled into the party. Shivering, right? She sent shivers down their spines. She just took on all of corporate America. How fucking brain dead do you have to be to believe this? How stupid do you have to be? Oh my god. She's not a threat to anything. She's not a threat to anything, man. And this performative crap, slogans, but then when it's time to vote, when it's time to oppose the Democratic leadership or whatever party you're in, I mean, you don't really have a choice. It's one party. Nothing. They're not there, right? It's just the tweet squad and the Medicare for All mask squad, right? Here you go. Again, I'm flashing this and then this stupid dress. Well done. So anyway, I want to get to the next segment, right? I want to get to the next segment. I've had enough of this. So, here we go. Wonderful. You ready? This is what we're going to be looking at. Oh, yes. They done did it now. Australia, the United Kingdom, and the United States have formed a brand new military, or as they say, defensive alliance, right? And it's called AUKUS. Australia, the United Kingdom, United States, AUKUS, okay? And as you can see here on the White House website, there was, a joint a leader statement. Boris Johnson, Morrison, Biden, they all gave a speech together at the same time, which we'll go through shortly. And it's very interesting, right? It's very interesting. Just to lay this out very simply, it's about China. They don't mention China in the speech or their speeches, but it's about China. And everyone knows it's about China. Even the mainstream media know it's about China, right? 2 hours later, they're doing stuff, which we'll get to in a second. So let's go through the speech and why this is a disaster for anyone with a brain, okay? So this is, I think Biden goes first. Oh, he forgot Morrison's name, actually, which was very funny. Let me just show you that very quickly.
Thank you. Over to you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Boris. And I want to thank that fellow down under. Thank you very much, pal. Appreciate it, Mr. Prime Minister.
That fellow down under. That was so awkward, right? Like this is so emblematic of the respect the United States has for Australia. They're just using it as a military base. They can't even be bothered to remember the fucking Prime Minister's name. That fellow down under. Thank you, you wallaby. All right, so let me play you this speech, okay?
I'm very pleased to join two great friends of freedom and of Australia, Prime Minister Johnson and President Biden. Today, we join our nations in a next-generation partnership built on a strong foundation of proven trust. We have always seen the world through a similar lens. We have always believed in a world that favours freedom, that respects human dignity, the rule of law, the independence of sovereign states and the peaceful fellowship of nations.
Yes. The respect for sovereign nations, which is why, of course, the United States, the United Kingdom and Australia are in how many countries now? They've still got special forces in Afghanistan. They just spent 20 years in Afghanistan, right? They've done coups all around the world, Iran, Guatemala. It's so many, I can't even be bothered to name them. We'll be here all night. So they totally respect other people's sovereignty, right? Which is why they invade any country that doesn't bend to their interests. Let's continue.
The future of the Indo-Pacific will impact all our futures. To meet these challenges, to help deliver the security and stability our region needs, we must now take our partnership to a new level.
And that is how you know it's about China, right? He didn't say China. He said the Indo-Pacific. And he said, all our futures depend on it. I was like, is that a threat? Sort of.
And so, friends, AUKUS is born. A new enhanced trilateral security partnership between Australia, the United Kingdom and the United States to deliver a safer and more secure region that ultimately benefits all.
Right. So this is the language that they always use when they want to invade someone or kill someone. Right? A safer region, stability. You remember how they invade Afghanistan for stability? They invade Iraq for safety in the region. This is just bullshit. It's verbal diarrhea. On the contrary, if you look at the places that they invade in the name of counterterrorism, there's more terrorism. You have Al-Qaeda, not just in Afghanistan, all over the place. Yemen, Syria, Iraq. You have ISIS now. What kind of peace and stability is that? The last time you spoke of that, look what you did to the world, right? So when they say these words, it's the opposite.
The first major initiative of AUKUS will be to deliver a nuclear-powered submarine fleet for Australia. But let me be clear, Australia is not seeking to acquire nuclear weapons or establish a civil nuclear capability.
Do you see how he fucking stuttered? He was like, we yes, no nuclear weapons. Okay, so let me break this down. You heard the man correctly. Australia will receive a fleet of nuclear submarines. Now, that doesn't mean submarines that can fire nuclear ballistic missiles, although those do exist, but Australia doesn't have any of those. But even though, even though they want submarines that run on nuclear propulsion instead of diesel, this is a big problem because Australia is a signatory of the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, right? So of course, under that, you can have a civil nuclear program, right, under the NPT, but this is for military applications, right? And Australia has always sworn off of anything nuclear, right? Always. So this is a very significant jump. And why nuclear submarines? Why not diesel? Well, France would like an answer to that too. We'll get to that in a second. But for China, which is a long ways off from Australia, I mean, they're still quite close compared to the UK, but still, if you build a diesel submarine has to keep resurfacing all the time to get oxygen. It can't stay underwater as long as a nuclear submarine. Correct me if I'm wrong, but a nuclear submarine can stay underwater for years and years. In terms of the engine, of course, the crew, I doubt there's enough food in the submarine to support a crew for a couple of years. Who knows? But the crew is the limit when it comes to a nuclear submarine. And I mean, if you want to harass another country that's thousands of miles away in a covert manner, a nuclear submarine is what you would use. But especially against China, which has the largest navy in the world. But let's continue with the speech, and then, of course, I'll break everything down a little further, right?
The United Kingdom, Australia, and the United States are creating a new trilateral defence partnership known as AUKUS, with the aim of working hand in glove to preserve security and stability in the Indo-Pacific. This will be one of the most complex and technically demanding projects in the world, lasting for decades and requiring the most advanced technology.
So, once again, safety in the Indo-Pacific? No. No safety in the Indo-Pacific. It's the opposite. When Boris Johnson or Biden talk about safety and defense, it's not safety and defense. It's aggression and offense. Okay, please, I mean, this is really not that difficult to understand. I mean, the war on terror is not over. Look at the last 20 years. They've used this vocabulary for everything. They always say, oh, it's in the name of promoting safety in the region, security. What the fuck is the United Kingdom doing in China, in the Indo-Pacific? What region? What business do you have in this region to begin with? Right? Like, no one even asked this question. It's just assumed, of course, the United Kingdom has business in this region. No, it fucking doesn't. Okay? This is incredible, right? Like, everyone just accepts this colonial mentality that, you know, I mean, with the US and Australia, it's half an issue because they share an ocean, right? What the fuck has the UK got to do with that? Right? They use this all the time. It's the same with China, the same with China they do with Iran, and so on, right?
We will have a new opportunity to reinforce Britain's place at the leading edge of science and technology, strengthening our national expertise, and perhaps most significantly, the UK, Australia, and the US will be joined even more closely together, reflecting the measure of trust between us, the depth of our friendship, and the enduring strength of our shared values of freedom and democracy, making the world safer.
Making the world safer, right? Just like they did in Afghanistan, right? Remember this? War crimes in Afghanistan? U.S. soldiers. I'm just going to read them to you. Sorry, I won't read them to you because of the YouTube algorithm. Just look at that. U.S. war crimes, Australian war crimes, British war crimes. That you call that making the world safer? This is AUKUS in a nutshell. This is what they do when they talk about making the world safer. Disgraceful.
Today, we're taking another historic step to deepen and formalize cooperation among all three of our nations, because we all recognize the imperative of ensuring peace and stability in the Indo-Pacific over the long term. We need to be able to address both the current strategic environment in the region and how it may evolve, because the future of each of our nations, and indeed the world, depends on a free and open Indo-Pacific to better meet the threats of today and tomorrow.
Right, so I'm just going to conclude their speech now because, you know, it's the same bullshit over and over. Oh, peace and security, you know, stability in the region. This is an aggression, okay? And it's upset France quite a lot, right? Because originally, Australia was going to purchase diesel submarines from France, okay? And they're very, very upset at this, actually. They're very upset at this. Because, as you can see here, the AUKUS defense pact with the US and UK means a $90 billion contract with France will be scrapped, right? And France is so angry, they're canceling their celebrations of 240 years of alliance and partnership with the US, and the French Prime Minister is furious. They're really angry over this, right? They're really actually angry over this. And I find this very funny because, you know, they're not angry about the Western aggression in the South China Sea. They just wanted to be the ones building the submarines. That's all. They just wanted to be the ones making the money, right? It's like with Saudi Arabia. They don't mind that Saudi Arabia is massacring Yemenis. They just want they just all want a piece of the pie. Germany wants to sell weapons. France wants to sell weapons. Canada wants to sell weapons. The United States wants to sell weapons. The UK wants to sell weapons. They don't mind what the weapons are being used for. They just want to keep making money from it because war is one of their most lucrative industries. Yes. Right? So I find that comment very funny. Honestly, that was quite funny that this is the only thing France is actually annoyed by. Now, the response from China, well, you can see what they said here. This is the foreign ministry spokesperson, Li Jianzhao. He said the nuclear submarine cooperation among the US, the UK, and Australia severely undermines regional peace and stability, intensifies arms race, and undercuts international non-proliferation efforts. It's highly irresponsible and shows double standards on using nuclear export for geopolitical games. Now, I'm just going to show you this clip. I wanted to show you a clip from the BBC. Take a look at how they're reporting on this.
Now has broken out over a new defence and security partnership between Britain, America and Australia. The deal will deliver nuclear-powered submarines to the Australian Navy to promote stability in the Indo-Pacific region, which has come under increasing pressure from China. Beijing said the pact was extremely irresponsible. Here's our defence correspondent, Jonathan Beale.
Britain's making its mark in the Pacific. The Royal Navy's new aircraft carrier has been flying the flag there on exercise with the US and allies. Proof of the increasing importance of the region and the focus for this new defence agreement. So what is the threat? China is the rising power in the region, not just an economic giant, but a military one too. Its armed forces are modernising. It now has the world's largest navy. It staked its claim to oceans, fortifying islands well outside its own territorial waters. This new pact, announced in a carefully choreographed appearance by the leaders of Australia, the UK and the US, is all about China, even though they didn't mention it by name.
We all recognize the imperative of ensuring peace and stability in the Indo-Pacific over the long term. We need to be able to address both the current strategic environment in the region and how it may evolve.
As to what is the pact, it starts with sharing the most sensitive of stealth technologies. Britain and America will help Australia build a fleet of new nuclear-powered, though not nuclear-armed, submarines.
The House will understand how Australia's future possession of this capability will help to safeguard the peace and security of the Indo-Pacific.
So what's the reaction? This week, London's been hosting one of the world's largest arms fairs, where there's fierce competition for lucrative defence contracts. The plan is to build this new fleet of submarines in Australia, but the government here hopes it will boost Britain's defence industry and create jobs. But this wider defence pact has already angered both an ally in France and a powerful rival in the region. France, which had hoped to build the submarines, has called the deal a stab in the back. But China sees it as more of a threat.
Cooperation between the United States, the UK and Australia over nuclear submarines has seriously undermined regional peace and stability, intensified the arms race and undermined international nuclear non-proliferation efforts.
The US might have led the exit from Afghanistan, but this agreement shows it's not turning its back on China's growing influence in the Pacific. Jonathan Beale, BBC News.
Let's talk to our North America editor, John Sopel, who is in Washington. And the French are very unhappy about this.
Sophie, I think this is the law of unintended consequences. The people who signed this expected China to be angry. They did not expect the seething, furious reaction from the French. Look, there was meant to be this huge gala dinner this weekend to celebrate 240 years of the French assisting the War of Independence for the United States. A French frigate is moored in Baltimore Harbour. The head of the French Navy has come over. And they have said, we're not going ahead with any of this. That is how angry we are. The French and Americans have fallen out over foreign policy before the invasion of Iraq. But this is a most undiplomatic row. One senior source has suggested to me maybe the French hope they're going to get some kind of reward from the Americans because of this slight. The French had been hoping to sell diesel-powered submarines to the Australians. That sale has fallen through now as a result of this, and as a result, it's the French who've gone nuclear.
John Sopel in Washington.
Incredible. Absolutely incredible, right? So even the BBC, they're calling it defensive. Really? Is it defensive? I want to remind you again what happened when Cuba put Soviet missiles on its territory to defend itself after the US tried a coup, right? Which, again, is an act of war. When you try to invade someone's country and overthrow their leadership, is a coup, right? It's an act of war. It's a violation of their sovereignty. And Cuba put missiles on its land, and America flipped out. So even today, you learn about the Cuban Missile Crisis. And so if you look over here, right, the UK, the UK is all the way over here, and they're calling it defensive. But China's a threat, right? This is incredible. So the UK is several thousand miles away, but it's defensive. The United States is several thousand miles away. They're also being defensive, right? Australia, several thousand miles away. They're also defensive. This is really amazing, right? It's crazy how America and Britain, they go park their warships in China's, on China's doorstep. They also have fleets on Iran's doorstep in the Persian Gulf. But then it's Iran and China who are threats for, being in their own region, for being just existing, right? It's not America, it's not the UK who have come thousands of fucking miles away with weapons and are just doing exercises, right? How would the UK feel if China was doing exercises, right off the coast of Dover, yeah? In the English Channel? How would they feel? You think they would call that defensive? They're just doing an exercise. Really? They always complain, oh, look, there are Russian bombers flying over Scotland. That's not defensive, according to you. So how is it defensive when we are in China's backyard? Because again, it's this imperialist thinking, right? We can go wherever we like. We can do whatever we like. We can intimidate anyone we like. We are always good. And if they stand up to us, they are a threat, right? Only the US, the UK, and their allies and Australia can bring peace and stability. Everyone else is a bad actor. Everyone else is evil. This is the fucking white supremacist imperialist bullshit thinking. It's ridiculous. And everyone goes along with it, right? Everyone goes along with it. Just look at this map, honestly. Just look at this, right? Do you see how many American military bases around China? 400 American military bases encircle China with missiles, bombers, warships, and nuclear weapons. But China is the threat, right? They always use these terms like, oh, China rising, right? We have to counter China. China's growing power in the region. What the fuck does that mean? What does that even mean? What has China done? Can you explain what China has done exactly? What does that mean, growing? What are they growing? Corn? Like, what does that mean? No one knows, right? They just use this abstract terminology to fearmonger. So an average person who doesn't know their ass from their elbow and is fed this mainstream media bullshit, this propaganda every day, they just hear, oh, China this, China that, China bad, China doing this, everything, like China. China is so bad. And then they don't even know why. They just hate China because someone on the fucking television told them to. Same thing with Iraq, weapons of mass destruction, complete horseshit. But they hate Iraq. They don't even know where Iraq is on a fucking map. They just hate it. Same with Afghanistan, right? They hate all these countries for no fucking reason because someone on the television told them to. Incredible how propaganda works, right? Absolutely incredible. So they use these scary phrases. Oh, China rising. China's growing in the region. Yeah, it's their fucking region. What are you doing in their region? Why are you next to China? Why is the UK on the other side of the fucking planet? It's not your region. Mind your fucking business. But of course, the United Kingdom doesn't have any more business, right? It's out of the EU now. They finished with Brexit. They feel disenfranchised. They don't feel empowered anymore. There's no empire. It's gone to shit. Britain has no global role. So their idea of becoming a global power again is starting wars, is participating in this alliance, right? That's it. Right? Trying to compensate for something that does not exist anymore. And of course, you must understand something, that this is not just with China. They do this with Iran as well, right? Like I told you, they have fleets around Iran, in the Persian Gulf. They have bases nearby in Afghanistan for 20 years. Now they still have special forces there. They have bases to the north of Iran. They have bases to the west of Iran in Iraq. And then they have bases in the Arab monarchies in the Persian Gulf, right? They just surround them with countries. They surround these countries with bases and then call them threats. It's unbelievable. But Cuba dares to put missiles on its own land, not in someone else's land, to protect itself. And you learn about that for a century later, you're still learning about it. Do you see the double standard? Two sets of rules. But of course, this is also about economics. It always is. It's always about money for imperialists. The number one, right? You have major shipping lanes here, Strait of Taiwan, South China Sea. So I'm going to play you a clip now from CNN. Forgive me. And you'll hear them spit out the truth of what this is about. And keep in mind, this clip from CNN was about 2-3 hours after they announced AUKUS yesterday on, September the 16th, right? So no one said China. Boris Johnson didn't say China. Morrison didn't say China. They said Indo-Pacific, but everyone knows it's about China. If you have half a brain, you know it's about China. And so does even CNN admits it. So let's take a look at the clip.
You have been listening to a major national security announcement. President Biden, joined by the leaders, the prime ministers of the United Kingdom and Australia, announcing that the U.S. and UK will help Australia acquire and deploy nuclear-powered submarines. That's different than a nuclearly armed submarine, but we'll talk more about that. This is a serious step about countering the increasing flexing of muscle by China in the Pacific. So let's get you up to speed. And frankly, we need to take a moment here and acknowledge that the United States on foreign policy has to a great degree been focused either on counterterrorism, the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, and the threat from Russia. We haven't really, in the news media, focused a great deal on China. So let's talk about how big a deal this is. The U.S. is going to help.
Did you hear the bullshit? Oh, China is flexing their muscle. Really? China? You're sure about that? It's China who's doing this. These are Chinese bases or American bases? China is flexing their muscle. Really? Wow. And do you hear how he says, we've been focusing too much on the Middle East. Let's start a new war. Let's go to war with China.
Australia and the UK are going to help Australia get nuclear-powered submarines. That doesn't mean a nuclear-armed submarine, right?
It does not. That's a very important distinction, which, as we note, the president took care to make. It is a big deal, no matter how you look at it.
So just to remind you who James Clapper is, he lied to Congress about NSA mass surveillance. You remember? They asked him, is the NSA collecting data about anyone? About everyone, rather, about all Americans? Is it spying on all Americans? No. Literally, with his hand over his face. No. Isn't that perjury when you lie to Congress? Isn't that something you could go to jail for? Oh, no. He has a job at CNN now. And then they call other people, they call other news outlets state media. Wow.
On several levels. First, in my mind, it really breathes life into the notion of a pivot to Asia, which we've been talking about for a long time.
For decades, yeah.
For decades. And it's a very bold step for the Australian government, the Australian people to take. It conveys...
Why is it a bold step?
Well, the notion of a nuclear capabilities are somewhat controversial. They certainly weren't in New Zealand, for example, which of course is not part of this. So I just think that, and the fact that given the dependence that Australia has on China for its economy, it's a bold step, because clearly the Chinese will view this as provocative, and they should. It also, I think, demonstrates a real pivot away from the distractions that you mentioned, Afghanistan, counterterrorism,
distractions,
into a strategic relationship that we've always had a close relationship with Australia. Clearly, certainly, I can attest to in the intelligence domain. This will profoundly.
Okay, so do you see what he's doing here? The United States just got embarrassed in Afghanistan, right? Well, it depends. The arms contractors, the private contractors, the arms dealers, they made bank. They made lots of money. They haven't been embarrassed. Afghanistan was a win for them. But politically speaking, right? I know politicians fail upwards, but the United States has egg on its face, right? They just got kicked out of Afghanistan. So now he's trying to downplay that. So this is just a distraction. The real threat is in China. Look, the Chinese, quick, we have to go to China, South China Sea. They just fucking love war. They're just so bloodthirsty. They can't stop it. They can't stop it. These people are fucking addicted to war.
Buttress the capability of the Australian Navy, and in a sense expand the size of the fleet available, of the attack submarine fleet available to the United States. Because
oh God, don't you just love it when they're actually honest on mainstream media? Expand the size of an available attack fleet to the United States, right? He just told you, he's just admitting on television, this isn't about Australia. It's about the United States having a bigger fleet, a bigger military presence, a bigger military footprint to counter China. Well, counter is the wrong word, because that means that China has done something. Can you name something? Because they can't. You'll see in a moment, right? He's admitting this isn't just for Australia. It's for the United States. We will have a bigger attack fleet. He's saying it to you. And he's right also when he says that Australians are against nuclear. They don't like that. He said it in so many words. And he's right that the Chinese are right to be to feel threatened by this. You know, China is Australia's largest trading partner, right? So this is a very weird predicament where they're saying that Australia's biggest trading partner is also a threat to Australia somehow. Wow. How does that work exactly? They use these abstract phrases like the growing presence of China, the flexing of muscle. What the fuck does that mean? What does this mean concretely? Peace and security. Peace and security from what? Do you see how they create threats out of thin air? And even when Australia is benefiting from trade with China, although, yeah, that's debatable now because of this trade war, but generally speaking, they need China it's the largest trading partner, right? Even though China is Australia's largest trading partner, they're still trying to put Australia, yank it into the US camp, no pun intended. And, they're endangering Australians at the end of the day, because he just said that this is all about the US. If God forbid some war starts, who do you think is going to go first? It's the Australians. Australia is a US base, just like every other country that the United States has bases in. It doesn't have friends. You just saw what they did with France, right? France was a big ally. They're literally about to celebrate that France helped them during the War of Independence. They just screwed France in a second like that and gave the deal to someone else. This is what they do. This is what the United States does, right? Just like it screwed its Afghan allies and left those behind, yeah, in Afghanistan. Or just like it screwed Saddam Hussein, right? They used Saddam Hussein as a pawn. Go attack Iran. Okay, here's some chemical weapons, which he used against Iran. He used against the Kurds. And then when they were done using him, you saw what they did to Saddam. This is how the US behaves. And when they're done with Australia, they'll do the same. They will leave Australia hanging. That's to do with everyone.
Because we are so interoperable. So in my mind, in several levels, a really big deal, and coincidentally coming on the right, timed to coincide with the 70th anniversary of the ANZUS Treaty, the Australia, New Zealand, U.S. treaty. So it's yet another layer of the intimate partnership we have with Australia and the UK.
Okay, Colonel Layton, for people who have not been focusing entirely on Chinese assertions, aggressions in the Pacific, what has led up to this, that Australia, the United States, and the UK would feel the need to reassert the alliance and say, and you know what, we're going to give some powerful submarines to Australia to push back against China? What has China been doing that has the West so alarmed?
So, Jake, the most obvious thing is what's been happening in the South China Sea. What you have is an area that's been claimed by China, by the People's Republic of China, for really since they took over mainland China in the late 1940s. And what those claims are based on natural resources or perceived natural resources in those areas. So it's between Vietnam, the Philippines, Brunei, Malaysia, and of course China and Taiwan. So that's the first part of it. So what we're talking about here is making sure that what we call the sea lanes of communication are open. So what does that mean? That means that the trade routes that we use on the open seas need to be protected in the US and Australian and UK view. They need to be protected by our collective forces in order to make sure that no other navy can interfere with the trade routes as they exist right now. So that means any oil, for example, that comes from the Middle East, any raw materials that come from Africa, things that China depends on a great deal.
But have they been doing that? Have the Chinese been stopping those trade routes?
Not yet. But
oh, you bitch. China hasn't done anything. He just said it to you. Not yet. There's always a threat, right? It's not real, but who knows, right? Bush doctrine, preemptive strike. We have to go in for, they might do something. We don't know if they haven't done anything, but they might do something. So we have to go. We have to start wars. Oh, it's the same shit. He just said it to you, right? Tape Jacker, Jake Tapper. He's like, have they done any of that? Have they been interfering with any of our oil coming in, any raw materials, with our shipping lanes? They don't belong to the West, although they like that. But have they been interfering with any of our economic activities? Not yet. Okay, so they haven't done anything. Do you see how when you actually press them on what they're saying, it just collapses, it just falls apart? There's no threat. China, he just admitted to you, China hasn't done anything to them, right? So they always have to make up threats. And he is also honest when he says that it's about economics. It always is when we're talking about empire, right? When we talk about the shipping lanes, trade routes, this is key. This is what it's all about. And they are afraid of China because China is not going to do anything to them. He just said they've never done anything to them. They haven't interfered with them. But they don't like China because China is on its way to be the world's largest economy, right? Is on its way to be the next superpower. It already has the world's biggest navy. Yeah? It has more ships than anyone else. And they don't like this. Capitalists don't like this because when you have competition, what do capitalists do? They like to monopolize. Yes? That's what they do. They will buy up everything and take it. And if you don't give it to them, they'll take it by force, right? So when Iraq nationalizes its oil and locks out Western companies, they will come to Iraq and they will fucking take that oil. Halliburton will take that oil, right? Western companies will take the oil if you don't give it to them, right? Iran nationalizes its oil. They coup Mossadegh. They will take the oil if you don't give it to them. They'll take it, right? Syria doesn't want to build a pipeline. They will take Syria. They will take the oil in northeastern Syria as well, right? So imperialist capitalists, they steal. This is obvious. They are so lazy that they even enslave people, right? What they did with the Atlantic Triangle, the slave trade, they will even steal human beings to do the work for them because they are so lazy and they are such thieves, right? They steal the raw materials, they steal the natural resources, and then they steal human beings. They enslave human beings to build up their empires, to build up their homelands. And then they go, look, everyone who's not white is lazy. Wow, you got some fucking nerve. You got some nerve. So this is what it's all about, right? It's a perceived, it's a made up threat about the Chinese. Chinese haven't done anything. It's not me saying that. I just showed you the clip. CNN is saying that, or admitting that, rather. right? But still, let's use these abstract phrases because that works on people somehow.
The fear is that they could, and they haven't been doing so directly. And the other part of this is Taiwan. The Chinese have made lots of noises in the last few months about taking over Taiwan as part of their, bringing it back into China. They're really making sure that they can go ahead and take over what the Chinese nationalists have had since the late 1940s.
And here we go again.
What they're also doing is they're making sure that civil liberties in Hong Kong are being curtailed. So you have three things going on the open side of things. And then beneath all of that, you have a big cyber war that's going on between...
Right, so this is again what we hear with, oh, human rights violations. Yo, you want to talk to me about human rights violations? I spoke to Mansour Ad-Daifi, who was in Guantanamo Bay for 14 years, okay? I spoke to him a few days ago. I never want to hear the fucking word or phrase human rights violations come out of the United States or the West's mouth again after what he told me, which will be up on the channel. 14 years he was in Guantanamo Bay. You have no idea. You have no idea. And then they're running this torture camp in Cuba and have the nerve to say that people are being unjustly imprisoned in Cuba. Just the hypocrisy. You couldn't make this up. And so they do the same shit here, right? The NSA spies on everyone. They have full cooperation with American tech companies, Google, Microsoft, Yahoo, you name it. And then they deflect from this, they distract from this by saying, look, the Chinese, Huawei, they are the ones abusing their technology and spying on everyone. Really? You did nothing to do with that? And then you see how the police were just beating the shit out of people during the last year, during the George Floyd protests. You see the torture camps that they've got going on, the CIA black sites, Guantanamo Bay, and then they say that the Chinese are abusing human rights. This is really hilarious. This is really hilarious. I mean, that they have the nerve to talk about human rights violations after what they do. This is amazing. This is amazing to me, really.
China and the United States. And all of that speaks to a large picture where China and the U.S. are really fighting each other in a virtual way. But what is happening now is the United States is moving its focus, along with the UK and Australia, into the Pacific and making good on the plan, as General Clapper mentioned, to do this over the last few decades.
And we should note that, first of all, it's very clear to President Biden that President Xi, whom he's known for decades, I think, is not.
So I'll save you the torture of having to listen to the whole clip because now they start talking about, oh, this is about democracy versus, autocrats, Xi Jinping and Putin, they're proposing a different model. And I think this is really interesting because they are correct in the sense that it's a competition, but not the way they are trying to frame it. They're trying to say that, we support democracy, we, the free Western world, versus the savages, the people who are dictators, the people who are, authoritarians. This is how they're framing it, literally. I mean, it's just a few seconds later, right? So that's not what's going on here. That's not what's going on here.
China of Mao, perhaps, the way that Putin longs for the old USSR, Xi longs for the old China of Mao, perhaps, and that this is, in President Biden's view, part of the struggle between democracy versus autocracy.
Yeah, that has been
right. Once again, they have to frame it like we are the benevolent white saviors. We are the saviors of the free world. No, this is bullshit. America is the capital of imperialism and of capitalism, no pun intended. And they feel threatened by China because China proposes a different model. It doesn't mean you have to like China. I've never been to China, right? But the thing that's going on here is that China is doing better than them economically. And China does not invade other countries. China doesn't have to go stealing and killing and pillaging to achieve the same things and actually better results. And so they feel threatened that how is this country, which is different from our model, succeeding? No, we can't have that. They perceive it as a threat, right? I told you, capitalists, imperialists, they don't like competition. Competition is a threat. That's how they perceive it. So they have to take. They have to steal. They have to kill. This is what they do, right? And I find this so ironic how, just to show you the resistance versus imperialism, you have American trucks stealing oil from Syria going into Iraq. Meanwhile, Hezbollah is bringing in fuel from Iran to Lebanon. You see the difference? China does not have the same model as the United States. It doesn't go around invading other countries and stealing and killing and pillaging. And they don't like that their economy is going to be number one soon. They don't like that China has a sizable military, meaning it can defend itself. This is the real issue here, right? And this is what capitalists feel threatened by. So there's no actual threat here. And again, I find this incredible that they dare to talk about cyber. I mean, did China develop Stuxnet? China is the one who hacked Iran's nuclear program with a virus and sabotaged the centrifuges. You want to talk about cyber threats? They have a whole division at the CIA dedicated to that. Collecting 0 days, exploits, and launching cyber attacks. Again, everything that they say is projection. Everything that they say, they are the ones doing it. This is how they work, and this is the only difference. It's that, they sugarcoat their bullshit. That's the only difference between Western media and everyone else. They sugarcoat it. They project, and then they use these terms. Oh, it's democracy versus autocracy. What democracy? Just look in the mirror, man. And I just want to show you this again, so you can take a look at what AUKUS is really. This is their idea of shared values. This is their idea of democracy and peace and security. What peace? What security? What security does Afghanistan have now? Huh? What about Iraq? What have these countries gained? And now you want to go into another region? We already know what they did in Vietnam, right? Laos, Cambodia. This is their idea. And so this entire AUKUS is nothing but a way to provoke China. Right? They want a heightened military presence in the Indo-Pacific, and when they say Indo-Pacific, they mean in China's backyard. And of course, to do that, they make up threats, they lie, they claim that they are the ones acting in good faith and that it's defensive when they are thousands of miles away from their own shores, and that the person that they are bullying, that they are harassing, that they are intimidating with a warships, with armies, literally, they are the ones who are aggressive, right? Very funny how they just invert the entire situation. It's the opposite. Everything is the opposite. Incredible. And people really fall for this bullshit because the media is such a good brainwashing tool. It's incredible. Really incredible. So AUKUS, this is nothing but a tool to intimidate China. It's not defensive. It's got nothing to do with that. Just take a look at the map of the bases, and this is what you will understand. And Australia, I wouldn't be surprised if they put Patriot missiles there. They had a battery of Patriot missile systems, or even if they put nukes there. The way it works with New Zealand has said, this is really interesting because in the last days, since yesterday, you've seen in the media that, New Zealand has said it will, New Zealand won't allow any nuclear ships or submarines through its waters. Yeah, but that's always been their position. That's always been their position. And the fact is, the United States doesn't say. The United States doesn't say whether its vessels are nuclear or non-nuclear. Okay? And then its allies let the ships through anyway. So my point here is that, Australia can say what it wants, but it's been taken hostage by the United States. So the United States only has to set up a couple more consulates, which are actually military bases, just like the one in Baghdad. The U.S. Embassy in Baghdad is a fucking a fort, right? It's the size of the Vatican, literally the size of the Vatican. All they have to do is set up some consulates and put fucking nukes inside them, and who would know and who would complain? They could do anything they like. Australia is a vassal state, unfortunately. And you look at what's happening in Julian Assange, just one aspect of it. Why do you think Australia won't speak about Julian Assange or won't speak on his behalf? They don't dare because they're being held hostage. Their country is controlled by the United States. They don't have any free will. They're not sovereign anymore, which is unfortunately the case of all the U.S. allies, right? The U.S. doesn't have allies. It only has interests, I think, as the vile Henry Kissinger once put it. And I want to show you a tweet here from David McBride, who was in the SAS, right, in the Australian Defence Forces. He said, we are not We are not the allies of the US. We are their slaves. We have sold our sovereignty. We have sold our sovereignty for submarines. We have to pay for anyway. If we wanted nuclear subs, we could have simply bought them elsewhere. This is not about equipment. He's right. He's absolutely right. And, he posted something else also that I wanted to show you, which is so emblematic of, this so-called peace and security that NATO and AUKUS bring, right? This is when he was in Afghanistan, right? The aftermath of a suicide bombing while I was in Uruzgan in 2011. When the US soldiers arrived at the scene, they shot a reporter for the BBC thinking he was a terrorist. He had brown skin. So, yeah. So much for defensive measures, right? This is about imperialism and it's about intimidating China. And that's the bottom line. And don't believe any other bullshit that they tell you. Doesn't mean you have to like China. Doesn't mean you have to agree with either one. But look at the situation for what it is, right? And if we're being very honest, there's nothing to like about aggression, imperialism, intimidation. So I'm not really sure why anyone would be thrilled at such a prospect that you have something like AUKUS, as if, 400 military bases encircling China was not enough, right? It's just never ending. They're going to keep coming up with threats, and as you can see in the media, they're so clever at getting you to stay, at fear mongering and getting you to believe in these made up threats, right? They're even saying it. We've been spending too much time on the Middle East and Afghanistan. These are distractions. China is the new enemy now, and people fall for this. Unbelievable. So anyway. Thank you so much for your donations. I see one over here from Utah Zen. He says, no wonder the U.S. is coming to my country, Nepal, with a $500 million grant out of nowhere. We share borders with China. Our prime minister is drooling with greed. Yep. So, they come either bearing gifts or arms. It's one or the other. And in the case of Afghanistan, well, they had bases there for 20 years on China's border, on Iran's border. Yeah. We have a tip here, a donation from Zetz. Quote, and the silence from the major leftist opposition, the Australian Labor Party, is deafening. Only the Greens are putting up some opposition, albeit mainly from their anti-nuclear power stance. Yeah, I saw that too. They're talking about it mainly because, again, they're very, Australia is very, very much against nuclear energy, nuclear weapons, anything nuclear. They're sworn off of it. And so, as you said, they only oppose it from an energy, environmental standpoint, but not because not because of anything else. Unfortunately, yeah. We have another donation from Fraser. Thank you very much. I appreciate your support for the channel. And we also have some other comments and questions over here. Let me read them to you. So. One second. This one is from Mealing, and there's no note attached, but it was on Rockvin. Thank you for the donation. Oh, and we also have someone who just joined on Patreon, Dolores. Thank you so much. Thank you for supporting the show. As per usual, we have a tradition on the channel that when someone joins on Patreon, when they support the show monthly, we play a crab dance for them, which I will do for you right now. Everyone put your hands together for Dolores. Thank you.
Clap for that, you stupid bastard. And Corn Pop was a bad dude. And he ran a bunch of bad boys.
Listen, fuckhead, you have fucking crossed the line, claiming I'm the enemy. You got that, you goddamn son of a bitch?
I don't give a fuck what you think, bitch.
Good morning. Sunday morning.
Cut that bitch off.
Thank you for Iron Dome, which is a technical marvel.
والله انتوا كلاب بصراحة يعني. ماشي نشتغل عادي.
We lied, we cheated, we stole.
Why you texting? Why? You're getting nervous, man. Calm down. It's okay. Okay.
Suck my dick and choke on it. I yield my time. Fuck you.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Dolores. I really appreciate it. Thank you for supporting the show. And I don't know if I'm going to get muted again. I hope not. But, oh, there we go. It worked. So if you have a phone, make sure that you scan the QR code on the screen. There's one for Venmo, there's one for PayPal, there's one for CashApp, and you can support the show by sending a donation. If you have any questions, I'll also be happy to answer them. And if you want me to play a crab dance like I just did for Dolores, you may support the channel on Patreon, right? So it's a monthly donation for as little as you like or as much as you'd like. It makes no difference to me. I'm grateful either way. And you help keep independent media going. So thank you very much. I'm very grateful. I'll just scan the comments quickly to see if you have any more questions or comments. All right, let me refresh over here. Wonderful. We have more likes than people watching. That's brilliant. That's very good. All right, so Measured in the comments says Australia is losing charisma and becoming more and more theatrical with a lot of sense of humor to speak about democracy versus autocracy and the other jokes of our values and their values. And Michael says, if you have a phone, destroy it. Helen says, already a member via Patreon. Well, thank you very much, Helen. I appreciate that very much. And we have a donation over here. This is on YouTube from Vito. Vito says the Uyghur situation was manufactured by the West. People like Geoffrey QC, who are part of the so-called Uyghur Tribunal, when he's not busy pushing lies about Assad's torturing prisoners. So, I mean, just speaking of Syria and Uyghurs, I think you have 5,000 Uyghurs who are in northern Syria, I think in Idlib, right? And some jihadist group. You have so many of them, I can't even keep track. Yeah, it's true. Well, the thing is, look, you need only look at recent history to understand what's going on when the United Kingdom, the United States, whatever, the mainstream media, well, it doesn't have to be just the politicians because the media are usually in on it as well. Just look at what they've done recently. They lied about weapons of mass destruction in Iraq. They lied about chemical weapons in Syria, right? They've lied about so many things in order to justify wars, to justify bombing. Why would you believe them when they talk about China? I mean, you should be learning a lesson here, which is you should not take everything that is said by them as at face value. Actually, further than that, you should wake up and realize they're bullshitting you. They just want to justify war because it brings in lots of money, right? We looked at how Afghanistan, while they say it was lost, yeah, politically, but financially, economically, the U.S. made lots of money, didn't it? Right? The arms dealers made lots of money. The private contractors made lots of money. So someone is profiting here, and these companies have enormous clout. They have enormous influence with the government. They own the government. So by extension, they own the media. So let's not swallow everything that they say. Given the track record, this is just exercise some critical thinking for fuck's sake. You know what I'm saying? That's it. So I agree with you. You can't believe everything they say. They lie so goddamn much, And when it comes to Saddam, for example, they gave Saddam chemical weapons to use against Iran. That's true. He did have them back then, but then he got rid of them. Right? You had the UN going in and dismantling his program. And when he didn't have any, then they were like, oh, he's dangerous. He has weapons of mass destruction. No, he fucking doesn't anymore. So tells you everything you need to know. All right, guys. So just a quick break, and then I'll be back to continue your questions. We'll do a Q&A. And if you have any, just shoot. I'll leave the screen up and I'll be right back. We'll just do a quick water break, okay? 1 second, 1 minute. Hello, we are back. We should get a better screen maybe for the future, you know? Something like, hey, we're on a bathroom break, but we'll be right back. This is we have a donation over here from Emblemed Fate that I'm going to read to you. Thank you very much, Emblemed Fate. It's good to see you, brother. Says, another thing, I don't know if you mentioned, is the imperialists are always saying China's trying to take over Africa with their loans. Number one, this point is racist, assuming the Africans are dumb enough to let that happen. And two, if you hate Chinese loans so much, the IMF should give better deals that aren't shit so people go to them instead. Later, Rich. Yeah, I of course, you hear this a lot. I've heard this too. And you know, everything you said is spot on. But the thing also, another thing that I would add is there's a big difference here. I mean, let's give them the benefit of the doubt and say that China is taking over, right, with their loans and so forth. I mean, isn't that preferable to being invaded and being, you know, having your people killed, your land pillaged? I mean, what is the alternative? Like you said, the IMF rob people, right? It's a colonial institution. They say, you do what we want, we're going to run your politics, or else no money and your people can starve. Or the United States invades you and takes your, you know, kills your fucking people and takes your resources anyway. So what alternative are they offering exactly? Even if that is true, right? Even if that were true. It's just all propaganda. They hate that there is another system that is better than theirs, that is, you know, going to be the number one economy. They're afraid of someone being better than them. And they're afraid of someone undermining, you know, their capitalist imperialist system. And of course, it's also about money and resources. It's not just about, oh, they're going to look better than us. No, they want to hoard everything, right? It's the name of the game. That's what it's all about. That's what capitalism is. It's what imperialism is. This shit didn't end in 1945. You're gonna be childish over here? We're gonna kid ourselves? Come on. So we have a UK lady who just joined as a member on Patreon. UK lady, thank you so much for supporting the show. And I'm about to play a crab dance just for you. Thank you very much. Everyone put your hands together for UK lady.
Clap for that, you stupid bastard. And Corn Pop was a bad dude. And he ran a bunch of bad boys.
Listen, fuckhead, you have fucking crossed the line. Claiming I'm the enemy. You got that, you goddamn son of a bitch?
I don't give a fuck what you think, bitch.
Good morning. Sunday morning.
Cut that bitch out.
Thank you for Iron Dome, which is a technical marvel.
والله انتوا كلاب بصراحة يعني ماشي نشتغل عادي.
We lied, we cheated, we stole.
Why you texting? Why? You're getting nervous, man. Calm down. It's okay. Okay.
Suck my dick and choke on it. I yield my time. Fuck you.
There we go. A crab dance. Thank you so much for supporting the show. Again, I don't like to spend too much time plugging the show, but this is indie media and funded by you and solely by you. So, I mean, I have a lot of upgrades in mind, some changes for the channel. We've come a long way in a year. It's astonishing. Couldn't have done this without you. This is a testament to the support that you guys have given this channel. Thank you so much, really. And I'm going to keep them a surprise, right? One day soon, I hope we'll unveil them. But I can't do it without you, so thank you to those who support. And, you know, in the meantime, if you guys have any more questions, I just want to say another thing that, well, you know, this is very dangerous what they're trying to do now with China. And it didn't start just with AUKUS. Just look at the media in the last couple of years, always fear-mongering about China, right? And this is how they do. If you look back at recent history, this is barely 20 years ago. With Iraq, already in 2001, they were trying to blame 9/11 on Iraq. They were trying to blame these anthrax letters on Iraq that were being sent to Congress. You know, they were saying that, oh, this is Saddam's signature recipe for anthrax. You know, they tried all sorts of things. So 2 years, almost 2 years of buildup, of lies, of fear-mongering. And then they went into Iraq. And to this day, you have people who still believe the bullshit from back then because the brainwashing is so effective. So watch out what they're doing with China, right? The media, the mainstream media, have a long track record of lying. You have 6 corporations who own all of the media in America. I mean, even if it were 20, the point is they have a corporate, they have an obligation to their shareholders. They have a profit incentive. So their incentive is their bottom line. Their duty is to the shareholders, not to the truth. So they have no obligation to the truth. They've abdicated their duty to factual reporting. They only care about making money and selling wars. And it's astonishing because they use all these phrases like, oh, China rising. Even Battlefield, right? What was it, Battlefield 4? I think? Yeah, it was Battlefield 4, which was about China. China rising. It's already in the video games since a couple of years now. They've been trying to say China as a threat. Why is it a threat? Because it's economically powerful? I guess so. Because that's what capitalists think of as threats. Competition, they can't have competition. They must monopolize, right? And as we see, they steal the resources, they kill for the resources. Look at the last centuries of history. What have all these European colonial powers done? In China too. Do you know what the United Kingdom did in China with the Opium Wars? They literally went to war with China because China wouldn't let them sell fucking narcotics. Opium. Look at the slave trade. They literally enslaved people. I mean, there's no limit to how low they will stoop. There's just no limit. And of course, it's not just exclusive to Western imperialism, but we are in a period where we have a continuation of Western imperialism. People think that, colonialism just stopped in 1945. No, it didn't. Okay? It's still alive and well. They've just rephrased it. They've rebranded it. So this is what you must understand. We're not in the 5th century BC. We're in 2021. We're in the 21st century. And right now, the biggest threat to peace and stability in the world is Western imperialism, Western colonialism. Okay? They are still controlling the same countries that they had colonized before. They're just doing it sometimes covertly through their multinationals or overtly, right? France, Britain, Germany, the US, they are all in these Middle Eastern countries. So they never left. Now they just tell you they're there for peace and democracy, and they feed you whatever bullshit so that you shut up and you believe it. But it's still imperialism. You understand? And so the West also has a history with China. And again, that doesn't mean China is perfect, but that doesn't mean, because you don't like China, that it's okay for China to be, bombed to bits or for some international conflict or world war to break out. Like, are you mad? This is not good. China hasn't done anything that even CNN can cite, and they're telling you on TV that, they're going to shift now to China. I want to play this bit again over here.
Flexing of muscle by China in the Pacific. So let's get you up to speed. And frankly, we need to take a moment here and acknowledge that the United States on foreign policy has to a great degree been focused either on counterterrorism, the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, and the threat from Russia. We haven't really, in the news media, focused a great deal on China. So let's talk about how big a deal this is. The U.S. is going to help Australia, and the UK are going to help Australia get nuclear-powered submarines. That doesn't mean a nuclear-armed submarine, right?
It does not. That's a very important distinction, which, as we note, the president took care to make. It is a big deal, no matter how you look at it on several levels. First, In my mind, it really breathes life into the notion of a pivot to Asia, which we've been talking about for a long time.
For decades, yeah.
For decades. And it's a very bold step for...
So you can see how they're openly saying this is a pivot, right? This is a diplomatic way of saying they're changing targets. Oh, Afghanistan's a distraction, right? It's a casual distraction. You just casually invade and occupy a country for 20 years and then call it a distraction, right? So now that that's failed, right? Politically, they failed in Afghanistan. Economically, the corporation's done well, right? But now that's failed, the war on terror has been exposed as a failure. Now it's like, oh, that was a distraction, man. This is the real threat. Look, the Chinese, they're the threat. Look over there, the Chinese. See, they always come up with this shit. It's the same thing they did with the war on terror. They said, you know, the Soviets, communism, that's not a threat anymore. These Arabs, the Arabs are a threat. These, you know, Islamist extremists, we have to go to the Middle East. They're always inventing new threats. Always. Right? To justify wars, to justify sending their troops to kill people. And the media, hand in glove with the military-industrial complex, with the politicians, right, who are bought. It's really a sick enterprise, truly a sick enterprise. And you go listen to them, they just talk in abstract, like China rising, flexing. What the fuck does that mean? If anyone is flexing muscle in the South China Sea, I'm pretty sure it's you. What are you doing in someone else's backyard with your ships? Dude, the United States travels thousands of miles with U.S. ships and conducts exercises. That's the United States flexing muscle, not China. China did not come to the Florida Keys. China is not off the coast of Hawaii with its ships. You are. You are off the coast of China. You are off the coast of Iran. The UK, Australia are flexing muscle, if anyone is flexing muscle. But, you know, they just turn everything upside down. The aggressors are the victims, and the victims are the aggressors. Everything is the opposite. It's all projection, and people fall for this. It's really exhausting, man. It's really exhausting that people still fall for this. So be careful. Be careful what they're trying to do next. Really be careful. Because we just saw what happened to the Middle East with this war on terror. It's still not over, by the way. It's still not over. And, you know, as their empire is shrinking and China is growing, who knows what desperate things they will do, right? Who knows? Now, there's another topic that I wanted to cover with you. This is really heartbreaking. Oh, man. Let me pull this up for you. We can start. Again, I'm I'm not sure how much I can show because of YouTube, but those Palestinian men who escaped, the 6 men who escaped from Gilboa, the Israeli maximum security prison, 4 of them were captured, unfortunately. So we covered this. And one of the men who was captured by the Israelis, right, Zakaria al-Zubaydi, he has been tortured and beaten so badly by the Israelis that he's now in the intensive care unit. They had to take him to the hospital. And they've been lying to his brother, and they said that, you know, he's in the Israeli media reported that he's in one hospital, and then the Israeli forces say no, he's not there, and then apparently he's been transferred to another hospital, and the Israeli forces say no, he's not there either. So his brother is in the dark. Like his brother doesn't even know what is happening, you know, with his health. So this is from the Palestinian mission to the UK. They're saying total information blackout by the Israeli occupation forces about the health of Palestinian prisoner Zakaria Zubaydi amid reports he was moved to intensive care yesterday. So, you know, the Israelis, when the 6 men escaped from Gilboa, it's such an embarrassment. You know, they escaped a maximum security prison with a spoon. When we knew that if they catch them, they are going to torture them. They're going to beat them. Lo and behold, They beat him so badly he's in the ICU. In the ICU. He's his life hanging by a thread. And I think the reason that there's such a blackout is because they have done something so bad to him that they don't want anyone to find out. Now there's a picture here. This was from reposted by Press TV of Zakaria afterwards, right? I'm not going to show it for long because you know what YouTube does. But I mean, this is really horrific, honestly, what they've done to him. And you know, this guy, I mean, I've been hearing worse, that he's not just been transferred to the ICU, that God forbid something worse has happened. But I haven't been able to confirm it, so I'm not going to say anything and speculate. But the fact that he is in hospital, we know this. We know this for a fact. And his brother went on Al Mayadeen, which is, again, a Lebanese channel. They do great stuff. And, you know, he said that the Israelis are maintaining a blackout. He doesn't know where his brother is. He has no clue what's happening. I mean, this is really just... This is what they do, you know? This is what the Israelis do, and then they say they're a democracy. They say they're a democracy. Wow. Wow. Let me show you this from Mayadeen. Okay. This was from a few days ago. This is prisoner Zakaria al-Zubaydi transferred to the hospital. His hospitalization was a result of severe Israeli physical assault. That's him. That's Zakaria. Right? Israeli media reported that Zubaydi was transferred to Rambam Hospital for treatment. The defense lawyer for the arrested prisoner said in an interview for Al Mayadeen that, quote, the transfer of the prisoner al-Zubaydi for treatment came after he was severely beaten, which led to a fracture under his left eye, unquote. Yesterday, the Central Occupation Court decided to extend the detention of the 4 prisoners until next Sunday, preventing them from meeting with their defense lawyer. So, Israeli media had reported that the occupation forces had captured 2 prisoners. Yeah, so we covered all of this, right? We covered all of this. And again, the article is very short because there's a blackout. We don't know what's happening. You know, we don't know what's going on. And this is really so messed up. They're punishing them. You know, this is revenge. And this is not fair treatment of prisoners. I mean, even in a war, for example, you have a code, you have a Geneva Convention you must abide by. You cannot just mistreat prisoners. Even in a war, never mind this, although, you know, this is a resistance movement, of course. But this is precisely why they have these men in a maximum security prison, because they're resisting a colonial occupation, right? And this is why they beat them up, because they are resistance fighters. They want to make examples out of them. They want to make an example of Zakaria because his escape, along with the other 5, embarrassed them severely, right? And then again, I just want to, you know, this is so funny. They talk about Israel being a democracy. What democracy? Where is this rule of law? Where's the judiciary, right? You call this a legal system, a justice system? Everything, every day, what they do to Palestinians is unjust. Zakaria, I went through the 6 prisoners, why each one of them was being detained. Zakaria has been in jail since 2019. He's awaiting trial for 2 years. He hasn't even been convicted of anything. So 4 of them are serving life sentences and 2 awaiting trial since 2019. Right? They just keep you there forever, and they have something that they can called administrative detention, right? So they can keep you 6 months at a time in jail without charge for no reason, and they can keep extending it, right? Wow, what a democracy. And then, of course, the Western media, what do they tell you? They say, oh, Syria is a human rights abuser. Syria has awful prisons, right? China is a human rights abuser. Venezuela, Cuba, like all the countries, coincidentally, all the countries who just happen to be on the list of enemies of the State Department, they are human rights abusers, but not Israel, right? Beating a prisoner so bad that he has to be taken to the ICU. This is not unjust imprisonment. This is not unjust treatment of prisoners. Where are the sanctions on Israel? Just 2 weeks ago, Secretary of State Blinken put sanctions on Cuba for unjust imprisonment of protesters and for mistreatment. Meanwhile, the United States is running a torture camp on Cuban soil, right? And they have the nerve to talk about unjust imprisonment. And you're never going to hear any of this, right? Because it's not about human rights. It's not about democracy. It's not about just and fair treatment. It's about who's an ally and who's an enemy. And they use these phrases to demonize their enemies, to run PR campaigns against them, to do propaganda. But they're actually doing the same things, if not worse. They are doing the same things, if not worse, right? And this is really terrible. What's happened to him, honestly. And I think the reason they are not telling anyone is because they've done something very, very, very bad. Right? They've done something extremely bad. And I just want to read something to you over here. Look at this. He's talking here about people who are making a supposed peace with Israel, right? So because he used to believe in the peace process, and he went through the whole evolution, personal journey, and before he joined the resistance, and he said, quote, the disappointment and anger he feels, so Zakaria feels towards the Israeli peaceniks, are incomparably greater than his anger at Prime Minister Sharon. He mentions this over and over. Sharon is a military man, so he doesn't expect anything different from him. Not so with the Israeli peace camp. Not one of them called him after his mother was killed by an IDF sniper's bullet over a year ago, while she was standing by the window of her home. And no one came when his brother was killed a few hours later. The house was also demolished and no one came. I saw that. He says it in a video as well. So the Israelis, a sniper shot dead his mother. They killed his brother, destroyed his home, and now he is in jail, and they beat him so badly he's in the ICU. And this is not just one story. There are millions of Palestinian families with the same story. Do you understand? Really, I mean, there's nothing that the Palestinians have not been through. Nothing. You name it, and it's happened to them. And, the whole world is so disgusting and does nothing and allows the Israelis to continue this. Even the Arabs, half of them have looked the other way and abandoned them, right? Shameful. Really shameful. And Hamas, they have said that there will be no more prisoner exchanges with the Israelis unless the 6 men from Gilboa, including Zakaria, are freed. So there's because sometimes you have prisoner exchanges, right, between enemies. And so one way or another, the Israelis have to free them. But that doesn't change the fact that they have already mistreated them and brutalized them, and it's really heartbreaking. But inshallah, they will be free one way or another, right? Thank you, Ahmed, for your donation. Ahmed asks, do you think Israel will invade Jenin soon? I feel like that could start the third intifada if they did. Man, thank you that you bring up Jenin, because, hold on. Just type, any one of you, just type in Google, because this is a part of what I was just talking about, right? Look at this article. Look at this article from Al Jazeera, for example, right? West Bank anger boils as Jenin becomes hotbed of resistance. Okay? And this is why because, well, part of the reason is because of the prisoners who escaped, right? Part of the reason is because of the prisoners. And the Israelis are becoming increasingly violent, and you know, we know how they are. Whenever there's any sort of resistance or even just peaceful protesting, you know, when they had the right to return marches in Gaza, people were just standing at the border. They're peacefully protesting. They're unarmed. But the Israelis still shot at the civilians. They shot at the medics. They killed, you know, nurses, journalists. They executed them. They executed them and crippled them. So whatever way you are protesting, the Israelis will crush it. They crush dissent because they think that with disproportionate violence, they will always win. This is their mantra. And now people are upset that, of course, some of those prisoners were captured, 2 and then 4, including Zakaria. And man, I'm telling you, I mean, if Zakaria, something happens to him, like he you know, by the shed, he passes away because of how badly the Israelis beaten, there will be a third intifada. I mean, who knows? Who knows? But there will be something very significant happening in return. This is, just look at the situation on the ground. It's boiling. It's boiling right now. They would be stupid. Mass Casualty, thank you for your donation. Mass Casualty says, Israel models its settler colonial state and propaganda on the U.S. The U.S. models its police brutality on Israel. Yes, and in many ways, right? We know that they train together. And it's very funny because they deny it. They say it's not true. And last year when you had the George Floyd killing, the murder of George Floyd, and then the knee on the neck thing, I don't know what you want to call it. It's a death grip, essentially, right? So this idea, this act of putting your knee on someone's neck and cutting off their oxygen, turns out the Israelis are teaching this to the Americans. And the Israelis are like, no, how dare you? You're anti-Semitic. We don't do this. I literally watched a video the other day of someone who was in the IDF, the IOF, admitting that the U.S. trains with the Israelis. They have entire programs and grants, and they do exchanges, and they teach them all this shit. They teach them all this shit. It's unreal how they deny this, as if, you know, we're stupid or something. We don't know this. Unreal. Florian, thank you very much for your donation. Florian says, thank you for your work, Richard. Greetings from Zurich, Switzerland. Hello back, and thank you. It's good to see you. It's nice to have you, and I'm very grateful for your support as always. Florian is always coming in. Is a G. We've got a tip over here from Aiden. It says Israel is a fascist state just like America. No, Israel is not a state, but it is fascist in nature. But yeah, I know what you're saying. I know what you're saying. I only have a slight disagreement with the statement that you made there. No pun intended. Sarah, thank you very much to Sarah. She just joined on Patreon as a member. Thank you, and for supporting independent media. And I will play a crab dance just for you. Everyone put your hands together for Sarah.
Clap for that, you stupid bastard. And Corn Pop was a bad dude. And he ran a bunch of bad boys.
Listen, fuckhead, you have fucking crossed the line. Claiming I'm the enemy. You got that, you goddamn son of a bitch?
I don't give a fuck what you think, bitch.
Good morning. Sunday morning.
Cut that bitch off.
Thank you for Iron Dome, which is a technical marvel.
والله انتوا كلاب بصراحة يعني. ماشي نشتغل عادي.
We lied, we cheated, we stole.
Why you texting? Why? You're getting nervous, man. Calm down. It's okay. Okay.
Suck my dick and choke on it. I yield my time. Fuck you.
Hey! Thank you so much. Thank you to everyone who signed up on Patreon to support the show monthly. Again, I don't like plugging the show, but I have to. And I don't know how many members we are now, but we're getting close. And you can donate $2 a month, $7, anything you like. It doesn't matter. You can put in any number you want. It all counts. It all matters, and it's all appreciated. And it helps keep the channel going. It helps keep the independent media to continue. And I'm very grateful. And if you want, there's also other ways to donate on PayPal, whatever you like. I'll leave everything below. I won't spend too much time plugging. I just want to answer your questions if you have any, right? So you can send them to, if you want, via PayPal or in a super chat, whatever. So we have a question here from TayRay88. Says, AUKUS, is AUKUS meant to hurt China's Belt and Road Initiative? Well, I mean, yes, but that's so obvious that I didn't. I didn't say it explicitly, but yes, of course it is. What I said was that China is doing well economically, and I mean this says everything, right? This AUKUS is certainly also to hurt the Belt and Road Initiative, the Chinese Belt and Road Initiative. And just look at the difference in mentality. China goes to Iran and strikes a deal, right? China goes to all these countries and agrees based on respect. They hash out a deal for growth, for partnership, right? Economic partnership. So both parties are benefiting, right? What the West does, the West just invades. They come with their army, they occupy you, they kill you, they steal the resources, and they say, fuck you. So, of course, they don't like the fact that China is, integrating more and more people into the Belt and Road Initiative, which is really just a revival of the Silk Road. If in ancient times and in a long time ago, you had the Silk Road, which stretched from China through Syria. This is how commerce was done. This was the world's most important trading route. Yes, Palmyra, the beautiful city in Syria, is located on the Silk Road. I've been there; it's glorious. And the West doesn't like that because everyone benefits from it. China benefits from it too. And not just because of that, but because in general it's growing very rapidly, lifting millions of people out of poverty, right? And it's competition. They don't like it. I think Italy expressed interest to join the Belt and Road Initiative. And this is taboo. This is a sin because it's supposed to be a European ally, You can't go off and join the Chinese on such a project. How dare you? So hopefully we'll start to see more and more countries, instead of bombing and killing each other, cooperating with each other. Mutually beneficial agreements, peaceful agreements, and not more wars and profits for the defense industry. I don't know how anyone in their right fucking mind can argue for war. You can only do that when you invent threats, right? You invent threats. Which is what they do on television. They invent threats. They fearmonger. So you don't say anything when bodies start coming home and billions are lining the pockets of the weapons industry. That's how they shut you up, so you don't ask any questions, right? So you see the difference in the model. Again, that doesn't mean China's perfect. No country is perfect. But when it comes to how they interact with other sovereign nations, there is a clear difference, right? Between the way America interacts with other countries and China interacts with other countries. A stark difference, a very big difference. This is undeniable. Anyone who can't see this is, I don't know what they're on. So definitely the Belt and Road Initiative poses a huge threat. Again, if you want to use the capitalist vocabulary, it's not a threat to anyone. It's just it's just countries engaging in mutual trade. But of course, this is, they can't have that. They want to monopolize everything. So, yeah. Michael says Cosby would make them faint, then have his way with them. He proved it. I don't understand what that means or what you're referring to. But if we're talking about China, I mean, the cyber thing is incredible because you want to talk about cyber threats. Who the fuck has the 5 eyes, the 14 eyes? What are the countries who control all this mass surveillance? Western companies, right? That doesn't mean it's okay for the Chinese to do the same thing, but I highly doubt that there's anything on the same scale. It's just not feasible. All the biggest tech companies, software and hardware manufacturers are Western companies, right? We know for a fact from the Snowden revelations that every single one of them is cooperating with the NSA. And that's just what this is old news already from 2013. So imagine what they're doing now, right? Microsoft, Yahoo, Google, Skype, although that belongs to Microsoft, Apple, they're all working with the NSA. So you can't come here and be like, oh, Huawei, they put backdoors. Motherfucker, like has everyone forgotten about the work that Glenn did with the Stones? Like, have you gone mad? How can you forget about this and then point the finger at someone else? It's unreal. So if there's anyone doing mass surveillance, it's most certainly U.S. tech companies. And one of the reasons why Donald Trump, for example, in his typical bullying fashion, wanted the Chinese to sell TikTok. You remember he said, if you don't sell TikTok to an American company, we will ban it. I mean, it doesn't get more obvious than that. It really doesn't. He's just straight up saying, give us the company. Give us the company, or you're not allowed to work to operate here. Why does he do this? Why does Trump do this? Because America is afraid of competition in the big tech sector, right? For forever, since the beginning. Which companies have dominated the sector? American ones. Apple, Microsoft, it's always America, right? So when you have a company that comes along like TikTok, and I can't remember the statistics now, but they're certainly among the top 3 video apps, right? And social media apps on the App Store. And, people spend tons of time on this app. So it's posing competition to YouTube, to Instagram. This scares them. They can't have that. It's okay if Instagram competes with YouTube, or Facebook, because these are American companies, and even then they will buy each other out, right? Facebook bought Instagram. And again, monopoly. That's okay, but a Chinese company competing with them, no, they can't have this. The fucking president will intervene and and say hand it over. Right? He was saying sell it to Microsoft or else get out. I mean, it doesn't get more obvious than that. It really doesn't get more obvious than that. So, all of a sudden it had nothing to do with backdoors anymore or surveillance. It's just give us the company. So this is perhaps the only quote unquote good thing about Trump is that he's so obnoxious and he's such an idiot that he says the quiet part out loud, and he just reveals what the U.S. is, right? And that's why they hated him, because he rats on them, essentially. He's telling on them and what their agenda is. When he goes to Syria, he's like, we're keeping the oil. He doesn't say, we're there to, to modernize the oil fields like those idiots Pompeo and Lindsey Graham says. No, Trump is just, he's too direct for their taste. We're keeping the oil. I like oil. I love oil. I rub myself in oil. Trump is a moron. He blurts shit out, and this embarrasses the political establishment in DC, which is why they hated him. Not because he's different from them. They're both scummy. They're both the same kind of scum. He's just too obnoxious, so they had to get rid of him, right? But same policies, really. Same policies. So, going back to the tech monopoly thing, this is, unbelievable. They because they saw there's competition, they hurled a mass surveillance thing. That was funny. So thank you very much to Paula on CashApp for the generous donation. I don't see a note, but it's very much appreciated. Thank you so much. And we also have one here from Chris on Rockfin. Thank you, Chris. Again, no note, but I really appreciate it. And before I forget, very important, since we're speaking about big tech, please make sure that you sign up for the newsletter. It's free. It doesn't cost you anything. And when I go live, I send an email with the link. So YouTube sometimes doesn't tell you that we're going live, but I will. Okay, so you will get an email when we go live, and you won't miss it. I know that some of you have the bell icon enabled, and even then you don't get a notification. So this is why, and that way we can stay in touch. Also, just in case YouTube pulls some funny business, some monkey business. And another thing is the Telegram. Telegram is an app like WhatsApp. I don't know. I don't know how many of you have it, but my point is there's a channel there, also free, and we also post when we're going live. So join the channel if you have this app. And Rockfin is something like YouTube. It's a video website. Rockfin is growing very big, right? How many subscribers do we have? Whoa. I see 14,477. We're almost at 14.5K. That is astonishing, right? I can't even believe we're at 41,000 on YouTube. I mean, this is a blessing, right? And we have 14,000 on Rockfin. So if you haven't subscribed there, go and subscribe. It's free. You just need to make an account, and you won't just find me on there. You'll find all your other favorite channels. Jolly good show, boy. Yes. Lovely site. All the latest news. This is the BBC. Thank God it's not. I'm just showing it to you so you know. Here we go. Here's the website. ROKFIN.com/RichardMedhurst. Look at that. 14,000. Isn't that beautiful? Thank you guys. So we're getting there. We're getting there. And you can find all sorts. You can find all sorts of channels. If you go to channels at the top, Free Thinking Media, look, you'll find Max Blumenthal. I see Ben Norton. I see Jimmy Dore. I see Syrian Analysis. That's Kevork. I see Lee Camp. Yes, everyone is here. So it's really worth it. Please make sure you go sign up. I already see one of you just subscribed. Thank you so much for that. Again, totally free. Totally free. You just hit follow and it doesn't cost you anything. The live stream is up and all the videos, the segments are up too. No censorship. It's really great. And another thing that you can do if you want, if you hit the red button here that says subscribe, for $10 a month, you will support all the channels. So not just me. It will be everyone on Rockfin. And there's no huge cuts like whatever YouTube takes or something. It's supporting the entire platform. So I think it's pretty much worth it. It's very good. And you can also subscribe on Patreon if you want. Again, I always explain these things because I think what if someone new has tuned in? Better to explain it. And yeah. So if you guys have any more questions, let me know. I'll try and read them all and answer them all. Comments too. I'm just having a quick sip behind the scenes. Gotta hydrate. So, yeah, so also for the latest episode that I did for Press TV, I talked about, the war on terror 20 years later, kind of a summary of what a shitstorm it's been. And one of the people I interviewed for it was in Guantanamo Bay for 14 years, Mansour al-Daifi. And the full interview will be on YouTube soon, but you can already watch a bit of it on Press TV. So presstv.ir, or just go on Google and type Richard Medhurst the communique and you'll find it. And it's crazy. I mean, really, it's so heartbreaking. He was 18. He was 18 years old when he was kidnapped and handed over to the CIA for bounty money. They took him to Guantanamo Bay, kept him there 14 years, never charged with a crime, never convicted of crime. He done fucking nothing. They tortured him. They did all. I mean, this is so fucked up. Really. I swear to God, there's like part of my brain which still can't really grasp that this is real. It's like, I don't know. It is real. That's the problem. It is real. So I'm just going to pull up the link, the website for you so you can see it over here. Give me a second. The communique with Richard Medhurst, and you'll find it over here. Okay, so I'm just showing you very quickly. There you go. This one, 9/11 and America's War on Terror. Okay, so go watch it. And I also had Chris Dynam on from Stop the War. You remember I've told you guys many times about this, when I was younger, this huge protest in London, and worldwide actually, it was all over the world, to stop the war in Iraq, before the war in Iraq. And I told you this image has always stuck with me in my head. Chris is actually one of the people who helped organize it. Can you believe that? Like, you know, that's so insane. I would see that on television, and then, you know, almost 20 years later, I'm speaking to one of the founders of Stop the War, and of course it was broad. You know, I asked him, how did you get this going? You know, and this interview will also be up on YouTube in full, but you can watch a bit of it now on Press TV. I asked him, how do you do this? You know, how do you organize such a huge thing? How do you keep this going? It's really so interesting and just such brilliant work. And he said something at the end that I really think is true. You know, he said that even though they weren't able to stop the war in Iraq, they still changed, they were still able to change public perception about the wars. And I really think that's true. I really think that's true to a certain extent, because I know you know, it's easy to see that everything is shit and everyone's brainwashed. And yeah, a good chunk of people are, unfortunately, because of the media. But there are also a lot of people who know that these wars are bullshit and they're founded on lies. And it's partly thanks to that protest, but also to all the continuous effort that anti-war activists do, right? We would be really screwed without them. And they do an enormous public service and a service to humanity. You know, war is the most terrible thing in the world. There's nothing worse than war. So people who fight against that and speak against that, you know, it's really for the benefit of everyone. So, yeah, here's the episode. Definitely go watch it, and I hope you enjoy it. Okay, I guess that's it for today, and I have, we have one more super chat over here from Anna. Says, Richard, do you agree the global health excuse to shut down economies, print to 300 trillion and use mass social controls preparing for the end of fiat currency soon? I don't know. I really don't know, but well, let me put it this way. Shall I put it this way? When we were talking earlier, just now about China, how, you know, and China is the current example, but they make up these threats, right? To justify wars, to justify anything. Social control is one of them. You remember the war on terror? They had this terror threat level color-coded fucking bar from Homeland Security, like literally just to fearmonger people into being sheep, literally, right? So definitely one of the objectives that they had with the war on terror was social control, mass surveillance. You know, they accomplished all of this, right? To this day, you still have people who think Arabs are terrorists and it's okay to kill them and invade them because they're a threat. Like, it's not true. It's not real, but they're obedient to the state. So my point here is that, and now with China, they're trying to say, oh, look, China is a threat for, you know, these reasons they can't even define. And they always manufacture threats about other countries, other people, or they exploit them, right? So, for example, Saddam Hussein, he didn't have chemical weapons in 2003, but he certainly had them before. Who gave them to him? The United States, right? And so, even though he didn't have any left in 2003, they still exploited the real threat from the 80s, because he used them against Iran, he used them against the Kurds, to justify bullshit like the invasion of Iraq, right? So my point here is that whether it's war or whether it's other things, it really, it's, you know, really not a good idea to trust, to take things at face value from the government and the state and the media, especially when the outcome of that is, you know, social control, or whether it's, you know, I mean, social control is putting it mildly. It's more like, you know, turning people into sheep and, you know, extracting enormous profits from this. I would just, my message here is be cautious. That's all, right? I would be cautious given the recent history, the current history, with everything. They lie for a living in the media. You feel me? They lie for a living. So they will either manufacture threats or exaggerate them in order to achieve ulterior goals and agendas, whatever they are. I'm not saying for sure or not for sure. I don't know, but I wouldn't be surprised. And I think that's a rational, reserved, just a rational fucking position to maintain. Like, be wary, right? And hopefully, when I understand more, and I can share it with you then. So here, I just want to thank everyone who donated. Thank you for everyone supporting the show. Thank you for tuning in, and sharing the videos helps a lot. Whenever there's a video posted, please go share it immediately, because it drives the algorithm. It helps us fight the algorithm, and it helps grow the channel, right? And if you haven't subscribed, subscribe. I assume most of you who are watching are already subscribed, but if you haven't, please subscribe. This is the spot where you get foreign policy, international news. You ain't gonna get it this way anywhere else. You know it. This way it is. So, thank you so much. I can't do this without you guys, so I'm very grateful. Have a good night. Have a great day, whatever time zone you're in. And thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for supporting the show. I will leave the donation screen up and talk to you in the comments. Okay? Ma'as salame. Take care. Bye-bye.